All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
Oh yeah, we're back. Final card of the year, T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, UFC 296, 2 title fights, 2 5-rounders. Gonna be a fun one. It looked a lot better earlier in the week, 14 fights compared to 12 is huge difference for me. I will say though, Big Marley, because there is NFL Saturday, Tambo Hoop talking. I don't know if they're still live right now. They did go live an hour ago though, so make sure to check that out. At 3 games on Saturday for NFL, prize pools not nearly what they usually are on a pay-per-view, even a normal card. Still 100K up top, qualifiers good, plenty money to be made. But I guess because of those prize pools, us losing the 2 fights, it wasn't the worst thing. There'll be tons of action on Saturday, NBA streets as well. But I'm excited to watch some fights. I'm excited to see some violence, big man. How you doing, Big Marley?
Good, man. Good card to go out on. Solid 12 fights still at least. Hopefully it stays at that. 14 would have been a lot cooler. But yeah, I mean, it does suck that we're getting like fight night type prizes. At the same time, I'm glad to have NFL on as well. Hopefully we can win on that and in UFC because we offer them both over at SHIPITNation.com. Go sign up. You get everything for one price. And I finished all my stuff today. I'm feeling pretty good about this card. I think it's a great MME card. I'm going to start digging into the solver as soon as we finish this podcast, and I think it'll be a 150 lineup week. Hopefully we can ship it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it too. A couple fights still giving me a little problems, but I agree with you. It's always an MME card for me. But with 2 5-rounders and a good amount of closely lined fights, I think there's a lot of ways to go. I think ownership will be pretty spread out. You said all of your stuff is up. I'm still finishing. I got, I think, 2-3 fights I still got to break down. Projections, ownership will be up. Most of my stuff done too, though, but we got the cash show, Hoop and I, after this, so my stuff will be up in the afternoon, as Big Marley said, though. We have everything up, NBA as well, NHL going on, NFL, of course. No better time. Monster weekend over here at SHIPITNation.com. As low as 25 or as weekly membership, $25 a week. That is not including Discord. Otherwise, monthly, 6-month, and annual, $69 a month. 6-month comes out to $59 a month. Annual comes out to $49 a month. Man, a lot of people, a lot of great words from the community. A lot of people. I mean, there's no better price in the industry. I think the quality is as good as everything else out there. You need projections. We got them. Core reports if you don't have much time. But really, the Discord community is second to none, in my opinion. So shout out to everybody out there. Nickel, Bowl, Whaler, Ben Jizzy. Clint's in here. What's going on, Clint? Our Ross is in here. Jackie as well. I saw Clint playing some poker with Kobe Covington last month, so I'm excited to talk some fights with Clint as well. Let's go. First fight of the night. Any broad slate overview, like leaving salary on the table, or any rules you're making? What do you do with the 2 5-rounders? How do you approach that? Just any thoughts before we go fight by fight?
I mean, I haven't got to the solver yet. I don't know how chalky I am yet, but I think there are multiple fights where I'm okay Xing out one side of it. I think there's one all in for the title fights, and then there's one where I only have interest in one side. So it's kind of a card where I feel like I'm going to narrow down my combinations. I don't know if I'm even going to do 20, like hand build 20 or not. But if I do, I'm going to keep it to a real tight core. But I just plan on going all in on the picks I want to be heavy on and hopefully hitting the right combination. And if I am too chalky, then yeah, leaving salary on the table will probably be how I get there because there's not a whole lot of low-owned plays that I really like this week.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And yeah, that Royval Pantoja fight, man, that is, I mean, you could be looking at fight of the year right there. That'll be a banger. Rummy's in here. Eddie, Jackie Paper. What's going on, fellas? Bottom to top, as always, we do appreciate that like button. Appreciate that subscribe button. And again, if you want to head over to SHIPITNation.com, multiple different packages for you to check out. First fight of the night. Again, we lost 2 fights, the Randy Brown Salikov fight and the Ian Gary Vicente Luque fight. So 14 down to 12. I'm still going based on the order it was earlier in the week. I don't know if the order changed a little bit. Like I know Bryce Mitchell and Emmett is now on the main card. I'm not sure if they mixed the bout orders, but from earlier in the week, going bottom to top, first fight of the night, the only big boy fight of the week, Martin Budai taking on Shamil Gaziv. Looking at the odds on this one, Budai minus 125, Gaziv plus 105. Looking at this one, fight is minus 200 to finish. Budai plus 155, Gaziv plus 190 inside the distance. I mean, man, I'm looking at this as low-level heavyweights, right in the mid-tier. But if you look at the 2 5-round fights, Leon and Kobe, 8,200, 8K. Royval and Pantoja, 8,600, 7,600. So this fight right in that mid-tier, like this fight, we're going to talk about Feely and Lucas Almeida. Like they're going to get some ownership. It's good fights to target, in my opinion. But the ownership has to stay in check because everyone's going to go to the 5-rounders around it. But the mid-tier build, I think you could play all those fights, and then you can leave the money on the table, 1,400, 1,600, jam the mid-tier and stuff like that. So that's kind of my initial thoughts, bringing it all into this first fight. I'll be playing some of the 5-rounders. Mid-tier strong, though. 9K range, I don't know, man. It's pretty iffy. So I think you can definitely leave money on the table. But how I see this one, Gaziv making his UFC debut. Budai, I mean, he cuts down to make heavyweight. Pretty good cardio, though. Looks to me like Gaziv wants to fight on the mat. Primary wrestler, good ground and pound. But the dude looks to have zero gas tank. So I'm targeting this fight. Low-level heavyweights. Gaziv round 1 if he can get on top. Otherwise, I think he falls off a cliff. Probably just going to play the ownership game in this one. I think Gaziv will be higher owned than Budai because the line keeps moving to him and the pricing. So, yeah, I'll probably have a little more Budai. I'll be playing this fight, though. What about you?
Yeah, I love this fight. I think we start off the night with a big score in this one. Really, all of this Gaziev's fights are the same. He goes out there right away and he starts to blitz his opponent, throwing these wild haymakers, and he either knocks him out or he goes for a takedown and he gets it usually. And then he starts landing ground and pound, and then he gets the stoppage shortly after. Really a bunch of scrubs. The one guy that hung in there and extended the fight ended up going to a split decision. They were both completely exhausted. So if Gaziev makes it out of this first round, I feel like it's all Budai all day in the second round. Probably finishes him in the second round. If not, then I think he finishes him in the third. But he could put up a lot of work in those 2 rounds against a gassed Gaziev. But at the same time, I'm not completely sold on Gaziev. I think Budai could win in the first round. So I like him, especially if he's going overlooked by the field. I like him a lot at 8,400. However, if Gaziev is just the real deal and he is able to knock this guy out or get him to the ground and start landing ground and pound, he's going to score well with a first round finish. So I'm going to be on both sides. It's kind of one where I'm going to let the solver take over, but I will make sure that Budai is a higher projection than Gaziev on mine. And I am picking him to win. I think with the line moving in Gaziev's favor, that will make Budai lower owned. And I think at this point, he's kind of a contrarian play where on other cards, he should be pretty popular, I would think.
Yeah, so I'm looking. We don't have the ownership up yet on the site. You do have it on it. I'm looking at it right now. It's not on the site for everyone to look at. You have him because Andre Feely, who we're about to talk about, 100 more. Tagir Ulanbekov, 100 less. And then it's the Pantojas, Leons of the world. That will definitely be more popular. You have Budai higher owned than Feely and Tagir right now. Of course, there has been a little late line movement. Do you think that'll stay? Right now, you have 27% Budai, 19% Gaziv, and then you have like 15% Feely. I think the Feely Budai will be closer. I think Gaziv might even be a little higher. But again, I say this every time as a disclaimer. I think a lot of things, and Marley has been a lot more right than I have with ownership on a lot of these weeks. So that's why I'm bringing it up because that's pretty important. If he's 27% Budai and Gaziv's 19, I'm on Gaziv. There's no doubt about that. But thoughts on that?
I feel like I'm probably going to middle that out and just kind of make them both closer to like 22, 23%, something like that. But either way, I still probably want to be overweight to both sides. But if I'm just throwing out numbers right now, I could see me having 50% Budai and 30% Gaziev.
Yeah, I like it. I think I'm going to be on the Budai side. I think he comes in like closer to the 20s. Gaziv maybe low 20s too. I think Feely eats into that a little bit, but I mean, low-level heavyweights with cardio problems on one side, and one guy that has a lot of first-round finishes that want to bring it to the mat. I mean, it looks like a recipe for a big boy score. And again, in between those 2 5-rounders, if you have the money for Pantoja or something and you fade, I mean, we're not really recommending fading that fight. But again, if you go something like Pantoja, take him out and you play Budai, right there, you could be looking at like a 40-weight chop down to a solo shipper or something like that. So little things you always have to think of, even more so now at 12 fights instead of 14. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight on the card, talking Andre Fili, absolute banger here. Andre Fili taking on Lucas Almeida, 8,500 Fili, 7,700 Lucas Almeida. Checking out the odds, Fili minus 160, Almeida plus 140 on the way back. This fight is minus 190 to finish. Fili plus 180, Almeida plus 165. So the rare, I guess I don't even know how rare it is. I always say the rare, but the dog having the better inside the distance prop than the favorite. Very slight here. This fight was giving me problems. But the more I thought about it, I got to be on the Andre Fili side. He just has way more paths to win. But do you think he's going to put on the wrestling shoes is what I'm going to bring it to you. Because if not, I mean, I think it is a dog or pass probably. I think Almeida might have a little more power. It'd be a banger on the feet, no doubt about that. But the takedowns and what Sabatini and Fili aren't even close to the same world when it comes to wrestling and stuff like that. But man, Almeida just looked that bad on the mat. I feel like takedowns could be free if Fili wants it. I'm on the Fili side here, but I will have some Almeida because if it is on the feet, he's a banger on the feet. He hits hard. So that's how I see it. I'm on the Fili side, though. What about you?
Yeah, I like Fili as well, and I feel like we're the first two that I've heard all week even picking him. Almeida has been a really popular underdog from what I have heard this week, and I feel like that probably follows on DraftKings as well. He's got a 100% finish rate. He's just coming off a knockout. Well, not his last fight, but 2 fights ago, coming off a big knockout win where he had 2 knockdowns. And I mean, he probably has a maybe, I don't know if he has a striking edge or not, but I would say he's probably more dangerous on the feet and possibly more durable as well. But at the same time, I feel like Fili's just as good of a striker. He's not going to be flat-footed walking forward like Trezano was, just being there to eat those knockout shots. He's going to be a little bit harder to hit. And I think he's a better all-around striker than Trezano as well. So Fili's live for the knockout. Fili's live to win a striking-based decision. But at the same time, he should look to wrestle here. That's his easiest path to victory. That's his least damage path to victory. And the older these guys get, the more they smarten up. I think he will go in there. He's training with Darren Elkins. Who better to train with than that guy if you're looking to take the fight to the ground? So I like Fili in this one, and I do think he goes overlooked because Almeida is so popular this week. So if Fili does look to strike here, he's going to need a knockout to have any chance at paying off $8,500. But if he wins a decision, mixes in a little bit of wrestling each round, he could score 10x or more there. But I think he could get a submission in any round. It's just that I would be worried about a striking match. And if it is a 15-minute striking match, not only does he have a chance of losing, that's what puts Almeida in play, but he just won't score enough to pay off an $8,500 salary. He's not going to be high volume enough. So we really do need him to wrestle here, but I think he's going to be low owned, so I'll get some leverage.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because, again, at Pantoja is 100 more. Kobe Covington and Leon are last. Like we just talked about that Budai fight, which I don't think is going to eat too much into Fili, but he's just in between, in that range, sandwiched between the 2 5-rounders. I mean, minus 160, minus 170, depending where you look. Yeah, I think he will be relatively low owned for a card like this. And like you said, I'm not confident Almeida's the better striker by any means. I feel he's been in the UFC for a minute now. Fought way better competition than Lucas Almeida. I think he can mix it in. I'm always a big Andre touchy-feely guy, though. But yeah, give me Fili in this one, mix in takedowns. And yeah, if I agree with you, if it's 15 minutes on the feet, man, it ain't going to score well unless one guy, the 3 knockdowns or something like that. But I think he does mix it, mix in takedowns and get the win in this one. So Fili's my pick. Fili is your pick. Only a Aldana left to weigh in. Rest made weight already. Awesome. Thanks for letting us know, Ross. So just Aldana left, who I don't care at all, but please keep that fight on the card at least.
Yeah.
Let's get it to the next fight on the night. Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Cody Durden. 8,300 Ulanbekov, 7,900 Cody Durden. Looking at the odds in this one, very similar to the last fight. Ulanbekov minus 163. Cody Durden plus 143. This fight is plus 170 to finish. Ulanbeka plus 245. Cody Durden plus 525. Getting all these mid-tier fights out of the way. Again, I think this fight's pretty low owned because sandwich in between the 2 5-rounders, favor to go the distance. Pretty tough for me to make a pick on this one, man. 2 primary wrestlers. I'll let you take this one because this is one of the fights I'm still struggling with.
Yeah, this is another one where I've all week I've heard people picking Durden, which worries me actually because I'm one of them. I do like him as an underdog in this one. I think this is really close to a 50-50 fight. Where Ulanbekov, I would probably give him the slight striking edge, but volume-wise, it'll probably be really close. And I don't expect a 15-minute striking match. Both these guys really prefer to grapple. And that's what I like from Durden is just his work rate. He's going to be pushing forward the whole time. He'll try and attempt 10 plus, 20 takedowns if he needs to. And when Durden wins, he is averaging 100 DraftKings points in his wins. And as an underdog, if he gets anywhere near 100 points, he's going to be on that optimal lineup. But at the same time, I do think he's going to be pretty owned because all week long I've heard nothing but people picking him. And that is what I think puts Ulanbekov in play. Not only do I think he's a little bit more skilled of a striker, but he's probably the more dangerous grappler as well. And he has wrestling in his abilities too. So I think Ulanbekov is kind of a pivot away from some of these other more chalky plays. And if he does win, he probably kills off 25, maybe even 30% of the field picking Durden. And I have Ulanbekov, like, I don't know about half as owned as Durden, but as one of the lower owned plays on the card. I think he does make some sense. But if you told me that these guys are both going to be the same ownership, or if you told me Ulanbekov is going to be higher owned, I'm completely out on him, really. It's just the fact that I think he's going to be low owned and he could win this fight anywhere. That puts me a little bit on him. But I'm going to pick Durden to win 2 rounds just by being the more active wrestler in this one. Probably comes down to a split decision. And I always just want the underdog if I think a fight's going to be a split decision.
How much? Yeah, this is tough for me because the 400, it's only $400 and you do have a minus 160 favorite, but I've heard so many people on Cody Durden. Cody keeps cashing his dogs, putting up big scores, Ulanbekov, so everything makes sense why people want to go that way. And I think your ownership probably is right. We have Cody Durden at 28, Ulanbekov at 16. And if that's the case right now, I already know my answer. I'll be way more on the Ulanbekov side than Cody Durden. It's not even close for me. So I don't even have to worry about trying to break down the fight even more. Cody loves shooting for takedowns. Ulanbekov's got a nasty guillotine. I do think Ulanbekov's probably the better striker too. But what Cody has, I don't think Ulanbekov has, is just the 10 plus takedown upside and just absolutely nuking the slate. What do you think? So you think it goes to decision. You think it's going to be close and you have Cody, but at 28% and if it goes to decision, he's 28%. What are you doing with him ownership wise, do you think? Close to the field, jam. So the way
I see, I think I'm just going to be able to narrow down my player pool enough where it's going to force me to have 40+% in my MME. So I'll be overweight still on the Durden side. But I think I would probably avoid Ulanbekov with my single entry. But if I'm hand building 20 lineups, I'm probably mixing him in there. I'll probably at the same time make my favorite Ulanbekov lineup and then just transfer him out for Cody Durden, leave the $400 on the table. I think that's a way you could just build this week is just put X out Durden, put in Ulanbekov in your solver, run 150, and then go into DraftKings and then player swap Ulanbekov for Durden. And then that just kind of makes you contrarian, leaving at least $400. So I don't exactly know how I'm going to get different. I think Feely's one way to do it. I'm hoping Budai is another one. I might have another 1 or 2 on the card that I'm interested in, but Cody's just some chalk I think I have to eat this week.
No, I think we talk about it a lot on this show, but I think that's sharp. If you can eat chalk. I mean, chalk usually it's chalk for a reason. And there's some chalk that usually ends up on the winner. You just have to get different in some spots or roster construction. Yeah. You plug in Ulanbekov, take him out, go to Durden, 400 right there. I think you can do that multiple fights on this card. I mean, we've already talked the Budai Gazia fight. All right, drop down from 8,500 Budai, or 8,400. Leave that 600. Play Gaziev. It's almost a coin flip. Easy right there. Feely Almeida. Even though we liked Feely, plug in the lineup, half Feely, take Feely out, go to Almeida, leave 700 or whatever it is. I mean, you're looking at, again, we always talk about when you win, how much you win. Doing little things like that can take you from a massive chop. Just saw it in NFL yesterday. What was it, 102 ways for 7,400 or whatever? There was a solo shipper that needed Easton Stick, $500,000 that just missed out. It was on the last, I don't know if it was a Zamir White Rush or whatever it was. But, I mean, come on now. If you look at it, is that lineup going to outscore? I forget exactly what 1v1 or whatever it is. But $7,000 or $500,000, it doesn't have that percent of a chance that that's going to be optimal more than that. Same thing here, Cordy Durden, Ulanbekov. So definitely leave salary. That's how I try and think of it. MMA, it's more of a game theory thing than anything. Some of the best players, I mean, some of the best DFS players in the world know nothing about sports, especially in a sport like MMA and showdown and stuff like that, because a lot of people, it's when you win, how much do you win with only 6 spots to choose from. A lot more game theory and stuff like that. What's going on, Samir? Better late than never. Hey, you're in. We appreciate that. Hit that like button while you're at it. Appreciate that as well. Let's keep it rolling, Big Marley. Next fight on the card. Dustin Jacoby taking on Alonzo Menafield. Jacoby 9,200 or 9,100, excuse me. Alonzo Menafield 7,100. Looking at the odds, Jacoby minus 280, Alonzo plus 240. This fight's minus 150 to finish. Jacoby plus 140, Alonzo Menafield plus 300. Looking at what we have for the ownership in this one, Jacoby 21%, Alonzo Menafield 14%. I agree with that. And I also have this fight tagged as underweight. At that ownership, though, I don't know. Maybe I'll be around the field. Like at the end of the day, I think Jacoby wins, but I think he more than likely probably needs a first-round knockout, and he's plus 400 to do so. I think he's going to be worried a little bit about Alonzo's power coming on the way back, but just think he's a better kickboxer, man. Mixing those leg kicks, use that distance, use that jab. I'm on Jacoby here, but in terms of the 9K, the upside, I don't know, man. If he's going to be that low owned, I guess, in that 9K range, maybe I have a little more interest than I initially thought. But I'm on Jacoby here. Had this fight tagged as underweight, but maybe I have a little more Jacoby interest at this ownership than I initially did coming in. What about you?
Yeah, I'm picking Jacoby. I just think he's the much more skilled striker, probably triples Minifield up on strikes. But at $9,100, it's knockout or bust. I think his ceiling would be 10x in a decision. I'd be pretty shocked to see him go over 10x in a decision here. But he does have knockout potential. It's just that how late is that knockout going to come? If it comes in the third round, is it too late? So I think Jacoby is just best used as a clear pivot away from Patty and Shavkat, who are going to be much higher owned. So I do have Jacoby interest because I think he's live for that TKO. I'm seeing him plus 110 to plus 140. I mean, that looks pretty good to me. And if he's going to be half as owned as those other guys, I think he makes sense up there. And then Minifield, I think he's KO or bust to even win the fight. I think he could land a couple takedowns throughout the fight, but I don't see him controlling Jacoby long enough to win rounds. So it would be more land a couple takedowns. That's great. But then if you put a knockout up, you're on the optimal lineup at 7,100. So he's an underdog who I don't really see winning, but if he does win, it's going to be a high scoring knockout. So the ceiling alone is going to put me on some Minifield. I put in my notes that I can see me getting 15 to 25% of either side of this fight. I'd be fine with either of them in my single entry, but it's another one where I'll probably let the solver control it for me. And I'll make sure I don't have like too much of it. But at the same time, I think this is a really good way to get away from chalky lineups.
Yeah, you and I see this fight the same. I mean, Alonzo Menafield's a grown-ass man. You just look at that dude. He's huge. Dustin Jacoby's a big boy himself. This fight's minus 150 to finish. Then you go and look at the ownership, and it looks to be one of the lowest owned fights on the card. So that's why I'm leaving them both in my pool. And it's, if I love all my exposures for the rest of the fighters, if I have 35% Jacoby and I still love everything, I'm good with it. If I have 10% Jacoby and I love everything, I'm good with it. Mr. Grapefruit, what's up? He likes Alonzo Menafield. You like Alonzo? He's going to be pretty low owned too. Definitely does have that KO upside. And again, if I end up like 25% Alonzo and love everything, I don't know. I'd probably roll with it, even though I don't love it. But because of the ownership on this fight, if it is optimal, there's a lot better chance that there's going to be less duplicates because this is one of the lowest owned fights on the card. I'm on Jacoby. And because of the ownership, I have a little more interest than I initially did. But I was picking Jacoby by decision. And like, if that's the case, he's probably not going to be optimal, but that's what the field thinks too. And that's really what I care most about, is what the field's doing, how to leverage off of that. So give me Dustin Jacoby in this one. It will be a low-owned fight. Keep it rolling. Next fight on the card, Casey O'Neill, Ariana Lipski, 8,700. Casey O'Neill, 7,500 for Lipski. O'Neill is minus 185. Lipski plus 160. This fight is plus 150 to finish. Casey O'Neill plus 190. Lipski plus 625 inside the distance. Looking at what we have ownership, Casey O'Neill 37%. Lipski is 14%. And again, ownership will change. It's not even on the site right now. If it's updated, you will always see the timestamps for that. This fight is supposed to go the distance, but it's not faking anyone out with Casey O'Neill's ownership, it looks like. When she does win, man, does she score well. She lands like 8.77 significant strikes per minute, 1.96 takedowns per 15. In her 4 wins, 140, 110, 131, and 122 DraftKings points. Her only loss, scored 55 and landed 137 significant strikes. I mean, just sign me up for this fight. Casey O'Neill, I wanted to be on the ownership's confused me. I'm picking Casey O'Neill. It's women's MMA though, which always leads me back to dog or pass. And at this ownership, like, I'll probably be more overweight to Lipski than I will Casey O'Neill. And I like Casey O'Neill in this fight. I love her upside, but I just love any fight she's in because she's going to push the pace and make someone score well. 7,400 Lipski, man. If she wins, like, I don't know how she doesn't score well, or 7,500, excuse me. I just don't know how she doesn't score well, because Casey O'Neill, I think, is going to force her to throw some strikes, reversals, whatever it may be. I'm on Casey train because I do think she can get the takedown, and when she's on the mat, I think it's levels above. I think striking's really close, though. I love this fight. Even at Casey chalk, I'm going to have some, because when she does win, it's a big boy, but she's the pick. I might have more Lipski, though, to the field at 14% compared to 37%. What about you?
Yeah, I like this fight a good amount. And when I was just trying to break it down, who I think is going to win, I was kind of going back and forth, which usually puts me on the underdog. I feel like O'Neill is the much higher volume striker in this one. She landed 230 significant strikes in a 3-round fight. Again, it was against Roxanne Modafferi, but at the same time, Lipski's not landing 230 significant strikes against anybody. That's just not her style at all. She's more looking to kind of dance around the cage and throw solid, technical, powerful shots. She is the better striker all around here, the more powerful striker too, but she's less durable. She's going to be lower volume. So I feel like a striking match is probably pretty close with these two, and O'Neill could take it based on volume alone. But it's the takedowns, I think. Lipski off her back is so not impressive, and O'Neill is so aggressive that for DraftKings, I really like O'Neill. She does average 125 DraftKings points in her UFC wins, and she has that kind of ceiling here as well. Just load up on your volume. If it's close, look for a takedown, stay in top control, throw a bunch of wild punches on the ground. Maybe she could even finish the fight on the ground. So I definitely like O'Neill on DraftKings. I think that's the best way to get any kind of investment in O'Neill this week rather than a bet on her. But I'll be loading up on her. But at the same time, Lipski, I don't see getting much ownership. She could win this fight on the feet. Even if she wins a decision, I think the aggressiveness from O'Neill will help her output as well, where she probably scores over 10x in a decision. But she's live for a knockout just based on how sloppy O'Neill can be, how just not worried about getting hit she is. I think Lipski's in play for a knockout here, break the slate with 100 points. So I want to be pretty heavy on this fight. I'll have more exposure to O'Neill, but I might have more leverage on Lipski.
Yeah, that's how I'm looking at it too. Casey O'Neill was supposed to fight Vivian Araujo a couple months ago, had to pull out with a broken nose. I mean, obviously it's probably healed, but you're talking about maybe a knockout for Lipski at this big plus number, trying to have pull reasons why that could happen, jab her up to death. Casey O'Neill's just pressure, like you said. I don't really care about what numbers it shows for Lipski, significant strikes per minute, whatever it may be, because the pace Casey's going to push is going to force her to do something that, like, Jennifer Maia landed 145 significant strikes. You don't see that very often. So, yeah, great fight to target. I think you said, I couldn't have said it any better at the end. I'll probably have more Casey O'Neill. I'll probably be more overweight, have more leverage to Lipski. Keep it rolling. Next fight on the card, Cody Garbrandt taking on Brian Kelleher. 9,000 for Cody, 7,000, 7,200. Man, I keep getting these wrong. 7,200 for Kelleher. Cody is minus 178 all the way to minus 200. Again, I'm looking at fightodds.io. Bet online is where I'm pulling, or what odds I'm saying. However, MMA, like all sports, but especially MMA, huge price discrepancies across multiple different books. So always price shop if you bet, especially in MMA. Minus 170 for Cody, plus 153 for Kelleher. This fight's minus 155 to finish. Cody plus 145, Kelleher plus 270. What we have for ownership in this fight, let me pull it up quick. We have Cody at 13%, one of the lowest on the card, and we have Kelleher at 14%. I agree with you. I think this fight is going to be one of the lowest owned on the card. I can't get to Cody, man, but you look at that inside the distance prop and you look at the ownership, I totally get it. I'll just be going to Dustin Jacoby when I am getting different right in that range. I mean, man, that last fight against Trevin Jones, like, one of the worst fights I've ever seen. Wasn't attendance for it. Was awful, awful, awful. I think he probably needs a first-round knockout or just wrestle for 15 minutes. Not the craziest thing. I mean, I'm not going to call you crazy for playing one of the lowest-owned fighters at solid inside the distance prop. It's not for me, though. Dog, I don't even know if I dog or pass because I think Cody wins this fight. But I have more interest in Kelleher in terms of DFS. Plus 270 inside the distance is nice. He has some power, and you hope you can, if Cody does shoot for takedowns, he's going to be looking for that guillotine, which can break the slate. So, yeah, I'll have more Kelleher, no Cody in 20 and below. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to X out Cody with 150. I mean, it's knockout or bust for first round, knockout or bust for Cody at 9K. I do think he is probably the more powerful striker. I think he's the more skilled boxer. I think he's probably the better wrestler as well. But it's real hard to win fights when you don't throw punches and you land one takedown per 15 minutes. So I just have no faith in Cody. I feel like he's fallen off a lot. And at 9K, it's just one of the easier fades we've seen in a while, in my opinion. So with 150, I will have 0 Cody Garbrandt. If he goes out there and knocks this guy out in the first minute, I'm probably not buying the pay-per-view, to be honest with you. But I don't think that'll happen. I do like the Kelleher side of this one. I think maybe he's not as skilled of a striker, but he could be higher volume. He could be the one pushing forward. He can have just as much power too, and I think Garbrandt's chin could be toast. So I think Kelleher's in play for a knockout. I think he's in play for a decision. You mentioned the guillotine. I think he's very in play for a guillotine as well. I think he's the more dangerous grappler of the two. So, yeah, this is going to be Kelleher or pass for me. My worry is that it's a 15-minute striking match and Kelleher scores 50 points in a decision win. I mean, that's not going to get it done. So I'm not going to have a lot of Kelleher, but I will have more than the field, and I'll have 0 Cody lineups.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't love Kelleher, but looking at the ownership, like right around 15%, I know I'm going to be playing no Cody. Like, at the end of the day, there's only so many dogs. Like, I like Lipsky more. Of course, Durden, that's a whole different price tag, but I'll have some. I like the Lipsky side a lot more, though, right in that same price range. Cody's chin a concern? Always a concern. Yeah, I mean, Brian, he can land one and Cody can go to sleep for sure. But, I mean, we saw with Shannon Ross, everyone was worried about his chin, rightfully so, and the chin held up. The body didn't hold up, but, yeah, I always worried about the chin. I don't think Kelleher I'm not picking Kelleher by knockout. I think Cody, mine's his P's and Q's, the way fast. The big difference in this one for me is just speed. Like, Kelleher's slowing, plodding, hasn't fought for a little bit. Cody's so fast, athletic. Like, he has all those advantages. The chin is scary, and then the guillotine's scary. He just doesn't do enough for me in this 9K range, though. So, yeah, some Kelleher, not a fight I like too much. Next fight on the card. Again, appreciate everyone hanging out. What a weekend we have in store. NFL, NBA, of course, MMA, NHL as well. Everything going on, we got you covered at SHIPITNation.com. Head over. Weekly, monthly, 6-month, and annual packages all come with Discord except the weekly package. Next fight on the card, Irene Aldana taking on Carol Hossa. 8,800 Aldana, 7,400 for Hossa. Looking at the odds, Aldana minus 171, Hossa plus 145, plus 240. This fight is to finish, the most likely to go the distance on the card. Aldana plus 225 inside the distance, Hossa plus 1,400. looking at the ownership we have Aldana 14%, Hossa 16%. Wouldn't even be surprised if Aldana was a little lower owned than that, but she definitely will be down there. I mean, I can't get to Aldana. That fight against Nunez was awful. Granted, it was Amanda Nunez, but she just did not do jack squat. Hossa, I mean, she's the opposite. I don't think she's very good, but she actually does something. 5.43 significant strikes per minute, 1.38 takedowns per 15. I think she's probably the more active fighter. Probably goes to decision. It's probably going to be split or very close. So, yeah, I mean, give me the 1,400 savings. Give me the dog. Hopefully she can mix in takedowns. I mean, Chesan was having a lot of success against Aldana in top control before the kick up. So, yeah, it's definitely Hossa or pass for me. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close fight. Probably goes to a split decision. So whoever has the plus next to their name is the one who I'm picking. I don't even care what their name is, to be honest with you. But in this case, it's Carol Rosa. On DraftKings, I really think it's an easy Rosa or pass on paper. But at the same time, this is probably going to be a pretty high volume fight. Either one of them could land takedowns and spend time in top control. So I think I'm okay with some Aldana exposure because she should be really low owned on this slate. But it's just that she's going to be low owned. That puts me on her. If she's going to be 20%, I would just X her out of my player pool, even with 150. But I think she could go out there, score 90 points. Maybe she could even knock Rosa out. She does have some good striking, clean striking. But it's just that it's probably going to be a really close striking match because Rosa has high volume as well. I think Rosa's probably more likely to land the takedowns and spend time in top control too. So at 7,400, Rosa's going to have a much easier time paying off that price tag. I think she's a good cash game play at that price with a high floor. But she could go out there. If we see the volume that we saw in her first couple fights in the UFC, she could put up 110 plus points in a win here. And she shouldn't be too owned either. So I am going to get a leverage to the Rosa side. But Aldana will probably be in my lineups that have like Colby and Gaziev and these other and Durden as my underdog, something like that, just as my way to get different in that lineup. But that's the only thing that interests me in Aldana is that it probably is a high volume fight. She's live to win, of course. She's the favorite. But I just have a hard time seeing her outscore that $8,800 price tag.
No, I mean, it makes sense. Maybe in my 150, I'll keep her. 150, I'll probably keep her. And if I play 50, maybe you got me on a little bit. Like, yeah, she does have hands, like Eddie's saying. She does train with Grasso. Like, she fought Amanda Nunez. Before that, she was doing fine. It's just 8,800 and who she's around. Pantoja's right below. Like, the range is absolutely loaded. Plus 225 inside the distance isn't bad, though. So you look at the ownership, you look at the props. If you are eating chalk, I don't think it's the craziest thing. I probably won't get there in 20 and below. I'll get some Hossa. Don't even love Hossa, though. It's really, she's active fighter. She can throw some volume, maybe mix in a takedown or something. I don't love this fight too much, though, but it's Hossa or pass for me, dog or pass for me. Get to the next fight on the card, right in that same range. And again, I definitely prefer Bryce Mitchell at 8,900 over Aldana at 8,800. But it's Bryce Mitchell, Josh Emmett, 8,900, 7,300. Bryce is minus 225. Emmett is plus 190. Looking at the odds, this is plus 125 to finish. Bryce is plus 260. Emmett plus 315. It's easy for me. My answer in sports bet and betting and in DFS is different. Betting, easy dog or pass for me. Josh Emmett all day. I can't lay minus 230 on Bryce. DFS, I prefer Bryce because when he wins, he's going to score well. When Josh wins, I mean, at this price tag, any win, you take it. But just say he gets like a third round knockout or something like that, and he gets control for the first round or whatever it may be. You could see like a 60 point something third round knockout because he's on his back most of the first couple rounds and he lands one. I'll throw it to you in this one, Big Marley. I mean, obviously, clash of styles. Grappler, Mitchell, striker, Josh Emmett. Emmett has a background kind of in wrestling. I say kind of, like we never see it, but we see it more on the defensive wrestling. Only two people really had success taking him down. Topuria, Holtzman back in the day, 2016. Can Bryce take him down? Because if not, man, I think he's going to get his ears boxed in.
Yeah, I think he can. It's probably a retirement fight for Josh Emmett. Those rarely ever go well. He has been looking worse and worse lately and talking about retirement more and more, it feels like. And he does have pretty poor takedown defense, like 46, 49% takedown defense. And this just isn't going to be a 15-minute striking match. He should win a 15-minute striking match if that were the case. He wouldn't score well. I mean, he scored 73 points in a 5-round win. That's just not going to interest me at all. But there was a period where he was knocking down every single person he was facing, and that's what puts him in play here. He could knock Bryce out in the first round. If Bryce can't get those takedowns, he's probably in trouble, and Emmett's going to knock him out at some point. So that's what puts Emmett in play. But yeah, I just see Bryce getting those takedowns, and once he gets them, I don't think Emmett's getting up. He's either going to grind out the rest of the round or he's going to submit him. Either one of those, I think, probably puts up a big score for Bryce. He's the one with more ways to hit his ceiling, more likely to hit his ceiling, more left in the sport. Give me Mitchell. I will be overweight to Mitchell, but at the same time, I probably want 20% or so. I want to be around the field on Emmett. I definitely don't want to get burned with a 50-second knockout by Emmett because it wouldn't shock me at all. So I'll probably just match the field or so on him.
Yeah, I'm picking Josh Emmett. I like you said though, the ceiling is way higher for Bryce, which is why I think he's a better DFS play. But then you look at the ownership right now, we have 41% Bryce Mitchell, 15% Josh Emmett. So yeah, I mean he's the better DFS play in a vacuum because of that. But at that ownership, it's Emmett for me now. I mean it was Emmett for me anyway, and I was gonna be overweight since I'm picking a dog to win. I'm picking him to knock out Bryce Mitchell. But I mean, like I said, a 3rd round knockout, he still could not be optimal, and that's not the craziest thing. Whereas Bryce, when he does, like even a decision win for Bryce, puts up 100 in both his decision wins. But at 41%, man.
Yeah, I probably come down actually on that 41%. Just when you said that, I was like, ooh, that seems higher than I thought.
Yeah,
so I'll probably drop that like at least 5% or so.
35, baby. Sounds, something like that. Again, all ownership will be up. Projections will be up. Marley just has it on the Google Doc that I'm looking at, and I'm saying it out loud. Yeah, I'm on Emmett. Bryce, I'll have some. I mean, I'll probably be underweight to Bryce. I'll probably end up there, but he's like Cody Durden. Like, just because I like the other side for the ownership and stuff, Bryce and Durden have that 130 plus point upside where you don't have them, you're just cooked. And I don't want to fade that on a 12 fight card. So give me Josh Emmett though in this one. Stuff to take downs. Put some hands on Bryce Mitchell. Next fight on the card, we got, Paddy Pimblett, Tony Ferguson, 9,400. Paddy the Baddie, 6,800. El Kukui, Tony Ferguson. Minus 320 is Paddy, which is the second biggest favorite on the card. Tony comes back at plus 270. This fight's minus 165 to finish. Minus 130 for Paddy. Plus 625 for Tony. All I'm going to say, and I'm going to throw it to you, because it's big talk around town. Tony went through Hell Week with David Goggins. What does that do? Blah, blah, blah. All I'm going to say is I think that's definitely good for Tony, because any man that can go through that with David Goggins is one badass dude. I mean, yeah, he prepared himself to get in a war in an octagon. No, does that mean that he's not washed? I don't know, man. That Nate Diaz fight, I swore him off. I lost plenty of cheese on him. The dude, Amanda Nunes, I think, would have beat his ass that day. I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't know anything. I don't know if it's because I lost plenty of cheese, but I was like, I can never put money on this dude again. Bobby Green submits him. But man, I don't know, man. I'm a big Goggins guy. I'm a big all that. You put your mind, you can do that. You can go through Hell Week. Paddy the Baddie. I mean, look at who's Tony lost to, and look at the four wins that Paddy has. I'm still on Paddy because I just think Tony's that cooked. I think Paddy's the better striker, probably the better grappler. But I don't know, man. Something's scaring me in this fight. Talk to me.
Yeah, Tony's, I mean, super impressive to go through Hell Week for sure. Dude's about to be 40 years old in 2 months. And he's going to have Goggins in his corner too. But I mean, what's that going to do? Goggins going to be able to, don't be a bitch, Tony. Come on. Don't push out here.
For me. The corner means nothing. He's probably not even going to say a word or whatever. That means nothing. But the previous thing in your headspace, that means something to me.
Yeah, I just can't get behind it. I mean, I wanted to. I saw that and I was like, shit, impressive. I was like, Andy's like, Pimblett's damn near minus 400. I was like, I can maybe get behind Tony here. He could win a striking match. I mean, he's going to be the higher volume striker. He's going to be the faster guy. But then I went and I watched the tape and I was like, oh my God, he's not going to be the faster guy. He's sloppier now. I don't even know that he can win a striking match against Paddy Pimblett.
Gaethje ruined his life, man. I don't think he can win it. I think Paddy has the advantage on the feet. Like, look at what him and Luigi Vendramini did.
Yeah, I think he's the more powerful striker at this point too, Paddy. And I mean, Tony used to be a solid wrestler, have dangerous submissions, but he was just flopping all around in his last fight. It was so ugly. I can't get behind it. I'm going to be on Paddy here. I think Paddy finishes him at some point, but he probably needs to finish him unless he plans on wrestling for 3 rounds, because at 9,400, we need him to probably outscore Shavkat to be on the optimal lineup. I feel like he probably should be a little bit lower owned than Shavkat, but at the same time, Tony's so washed. Paddy's got a lot of hype that I put them really close to each other in the ownership. And I kind of thought as Paddy as a good pivot away from Shavkat, but if they're both going to be super high owned, then it's just whoever I can afford, I'm cool with if I need to put them in the lineups. But I also don't think that Paddy's a must have. He could go out there and finish the fight and still score 80 something points here. But it's just the washedness of Ferguson that puts me on Paddy here. If this was 4 years ago, Tony's a minus 400 favorite here. So I'm just going to fade Tony. I feel like enough people want him to win where the ownership will be there, and I don't want to match it. So I'm going to X him out of my player pool, and it's going to be Paddy or pass for me. And the higher the Paddy ownership gets, the less I'll like him.
Yeah, we have 46% Paddy, 9% Tony, and we have Shavkat at 47. I think that's right because of $300. I think if we had kept the 14 fights, that maybe it would be a little more Shavkat to Paddy because, I mean, the more dogs you can choose from, the more dogs you expect to come through. Salary isn't as tight. Now with only 12, I think it is relatively close. I mean, Paddy's minus 135 to finish. That 300 savings. I'll probably have more Paddy than Shavkat just because, like, any Shavkat lineup you can make, you can go drop $300 to Paddy and you can get a little different, cut out some chops is how I see it. So I'll probably have more Paddy. For that reason, I think Tony's just completely cooked. On the feet, I give it to Paddy. On the mat, I give it to Paddy, etc. But man, I don't know. El Kukui, that Hell Week thing. I was like, I'm never even putting a penny on Ferguson. I'm never even debating him. I'm never anything. And then I saw the Hell Week things with Goggins, and I was like, but no, I'm on
That's
Paddy.
what everyone else saw too.
I know.
Up on him, so we'll let them.
Dude, that is so impressive, though. That really, really is. But all right, couple fights left. I'm on the Paddy train. Next fight on the card, we have how many fights? 3 fights left. Shavkat, Rakhmonov, Steven Wonderboy Thompson, 9,700. Rakhmonov, 6,500 for Wonderboy. Looking at the odds, Shavkat, biggest favorite on the card, minus 600. Plus at a lot of spots, Wonderboy plus 425 roughly on the way back. Minus 220 for this fight to finish. Shavkat, minus 235 inside the distance. Wonderboy plus 1,300. I mean, the odds obviously feel wide to me. Wonderboy's no slouch. It's clear as day, though, the path. Take Wonderboy down. You don't need to strike with the man. If you take him down and you're minus 235 to finish, you're expecting a big boy score. Ownership, like you said, 47% we have. I think that could be right. If he's like 53, I wouldn't be surprised. If anything, I would guess we'd be lighter on the ownership than heavier. I mean, I'm going to be playing some Shavkat. I'm going to have no Wonderboy. No real hot take, though. Like I said, I'll probably end up underweight to Shavkat because I'll have more Paddy because I can go Shavkat in that lineup. All right, take him out, leave 300, etc. Or like Shavkat and you have 200 left in the Shavkat lineup, you drop it down to Paddy, you leave 500. So that's probably how I'm going to do it. On paper, though, yeah, I mean, is he going to how many takedowns? Is he going to wrestle from the get-go, do you think?
Oh, man. God, I wish I knew that because if this is a striking match, who wins a 15-minute striking match here?
I'd be on Wonderboy. If you told me it's 15 minutes on the Marley's dealing with some mic issues. But if you tell me it's 15 minutes on the feet, yeah, you're back. You're good. I'd be on Wonderboy. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, he looked great in his last fight. He's like 41 years old or something, but he landed 163 significant strikes on Kevin Holland, which is an impressive feat. So, I mean, I definitely think Thompson's live to win if Rakhmonov does want to test his striking here. But at the same time, like, this is your chance to get a title shot. Go out there, punish this guy on the ground. Rachmanov could definitely hurt him on the feet too. It's just that minute to minute would be probably go to Thompson. And then, yeah, it's the ground game that's making him a minus 625 favorite. Like, you have to assure me that he's going to look for takedowns from the jump for him to be a minus 625 favorite. So I'm kind of backing him because of that, but his inside the distance line is minus 220. He's got damn near a 70% inside the distance line. That's what I like a lot more. If he does get the fight to the ground, he could hurt Thompson there too, or he could just choke him out really in any round. Could have some volume leading up to it. So I definitely like him if I can afford him, but just like Patty, he's not a must-have for me. If I need the $300, I'm absolutely fine going to Patty if that gets me up to an underdog that I like more. But I'm also going to have lots of lineups that don't have either one of these guys in it and just go more mid-range. So I'll probably be around field weight on both of these guys, I would guess, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to let the solver kind of take over and mix in whatever I can. I've had a few fades on the card. I will probably try and X out like at least 4 people probably if I can of my whole 150 and just condense my player pool that way. But I'm not going to have 150 in like the whatever $25. It's going to be the mini max. So 450, I'd be fine losing that. I wouldn't be as ballsy if I was maxing that $25 one. But I'm going to have a ballsy fade coming up here soon.
Yeah, I think I know who it is and I like it. But yeah, All-Star, we touched on it earlier in the show, but it's an important talking point because the 9K range is so weak. Like, that's why he likes Shavkat, but he's not the best in a vacuum. And yeah, that's why Patty and Shavkat are going to get by far the most ownership in the top range because, like, you look at these other people up here. Let me pull it up. Jacoby, 9,100. A lot of concerns in that. Cody Garbrandt going to be low owned. Then you got Bryce Mitchell, who's going to get some just for the nature of the slate. Aldana is going to be low owned. So, yeah, those top 6 fighters right there, there's not too many names you want to click. And there's a lot of live dogs that people feel good about on this card with 2 5-round fights that are in the mid-tier that are easy to get to as well. So I do think Shavkat, Patty by far the most popular in the 9K range because it's tough. But yeah, I'm good skipping the whole 9K range in some lineups, leaving salary, jamming the mid-tier and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'll be playing some Shavkat. I'm going to have no Wonder Boy. Like, I just think even if it starts on the feet, just say Shavkat has like, all right, I'm going to test my striking. And then if it goes bad, then I'll wrestle. I mean, I just think he'd get to that point. Like, Steve, he's so unorthodox with his karate stance. Shavkat's so much more technical. He hasn't seen guys like Wonder Boy with his movement and stuff. If it's on the feet for 15, it's going to score awful, I think. But I just think eventually, like, he's not going to like what he feels. I don't know. Maybe he is the better striker. Shavkat's a beast. Like, I wouldn't be that surprised at all if he's the better striker, but I don't know. Wonder Boy got this far at 41, literally just striking. So
yeah, or even if he goes out there, tests his striking in the first round, goes back to his bench, his corner's like, what the hell are you doing? Take this guy down. And then he starts fighting smart. It's probably too late at $9,700. So it's just another reason I think we could probably get away from maybe the highest owned guy on the card.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to be underweight. I think so. Obviously, in a vacuum, he's the best play on the slate. No doubt. If salary was irrelevant, if every ownership was irrelevant, he's minus 235 to finish. Biggest favorite by far on the card. 2 fights left, baby, man. 2 banger fights. 5-rounders. Alexander Pantoja, Brandon Royval. Pantoja, 8,600. Royval, 7,600. Looking at the odds, minus 190. Pantoja, plus 165 for Royval. Minus 500 for this fight to finish. Pantoja minus 125. Royval plus 190. Is this an all-in fight for you? 150? Are you making the rule? At least one of the, or not at least, exactly one of these guys. I don't think you're stacking. Exactly one of these guys in every lineup. It's going to be very popular. Before I actually throw it to you, ownership we have in this one. Pantoja, 49%. Royval, 40%. I think that's right, man. Only 11% of the field not playing it. Yeah, I'll say they pay the rake. I don't know if I'm making a rule, but I'm definitely going to have a ton. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to make a rule, but I do want probably 90% or more with this fight. I think it'll just be the highest paced fight on the card, whether it's a striking match or whether it's a grappling match. The last time these two fought, it was just a crazy paced scrambling match.
Such a good fight.
Yeah, it was wild. And then Pantoja submitted him in the second round, I believe. He scored 99 points in that fight. Score 99 at 8,600, you're going to have a good chance at the optimal lineup. But now he's a champion. They say champions get 30% better once they get that belt. If he is going to be 30% better, then I really like him to have the edge everywhere in this fight. So I am going to pick Pantoja here. I think he could win by any method. He could be the better striker over the course of 5 rounds. I think he's the better wrestler. He's already submitted him once. I think he's the better grappler. So I'm going to be very heavy on Pantoja. I will be overweight to him. But if Royval wins, he's putting up 90 plus points, 100 plus points, and he'll be on the optimal lineup. So I see it being like 60% Pantoja, 30, 35% Royval, something like that. This should be the highest paced fight on the card. I don't think it's going to go the distance. It's minus 500 to end early. So yeah, either way, we're putting up a big boy score. It's just, if I win 100, this is the fight where we're getting an eye poke, no contest. So I'm not going to screw everybody over by doing that. Maybe I'll limit it to like 95.
Who do you think, just say this fight gets to the championship rounds, who has the cardio advantage? Because looking at that first fight, I'd feel very confident it's Royval. The pace he was pushing, I thought he was breaking Pantoja. But then you go look at the last fight Pantoja just had against Moreno. How much higher pace can that fight be in 25 minutes? He looked tired in the beginning, but he didn't fight like he was tired. I think that's it's not expected to go there, but what would you say if it did get there?
Yeah, I got to say Pantoja just because we just saw him do it. And Royval's only been to the 3rd round one time in all of his UFC career. And that was a very close fight. He could have lost it. So just the fact that he's never been there, never even been close to it, really gives me the vibes that Pantoja should be favored in those championship rounds.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm on the Royval side. I'm taking the dog shot. These small dudes, I think they're so interchangeable. These guys in the top 5, I think Royval wins this fight 4 or 5 times. The scrambles in the first fight were insane. Pantoja gets an easy takedown early, had the back, was rolling around for a little while, but Royval was always moving. He was always doing something. He got a reversal. He actually got Pantoja in a nice ankle lock, and he got knee bar. He was mixing and matching submissions on the mat. It got to the feet. He had the pressure. He had the pace, the jab, the kicks. I think it's a really close fight, man. I really do. So give me the 1,000 savings. It looks to be a little lower owned. I'll probably be in the 60-40 other range with Royval. Not as strong. I'm not confident by any means, but it's easier when you're plus 165, when you're 1,000 cheaper. I think it's just a really close fight. And I think, again, they fight 10 times, 4 or 5's Royval. It's a junkyard dog type of fight, man. I've been really impressed with what I've seen for Royval. Unorthodox, good grappling, good striker. So is Pantoja, though. They're both complete studs. I do think Pantoja probably gets easy takedowns early. Royval, not great takedown defense. I think the scrambling, he can really make Pantoja work. I recommend everyone go back and watch that first fight, though. It was insane. Only lasted 7 minutes. That first round was nuts, though, and I think it's going to play out very similar. This fight's going to hit the mat. I don't know. The more I'm talking through it, I agree with you. I probably lock button this fight, and something gross happens, gets pulled after lock or whatever it may be. But it's so hard to see this fight not being optimal, unless it's something crazy like that.
Yeah, I feel like it would just be a slower paced fight than the last time, of course. But then maybe Pantoja subs him in the 3rd round, scores 10x, and that might not get there, something like that. But yeah, it's just I'm not trying to jinx everybody. If I go 100%, I screw everybody over, so I'm not going to do it. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. Definitely. There's always past where it doesn't, and it's going to be 90% owned cumulative. So, yeah, maybe I won't make the rule. What's up, Nickel? What's going on? Last fight of the night, last fight in the year 2023. Been a great year. Again, appreciate everyone hanging out. A lot of familiar faces every single week. We really do appreciate it. Leon Edwards taking on Colby Covington, 8,200. Leon, 8,000 for Colby. Looking at the odds, minus 160 is Leon, plus 140 is Colby. This fight is plus 120 to finish. Leon plus 210 and Colby plus 400. Yes, everyone made weight, Nickel. I know we're on the same side in this one. I bet Colby a month ago, maybe even over a month ago. I knew right after the Usman-Leon second fight I was going to be on Colby. Just think the wrestling's going to be there. I thought Usman was not the same Usman by any means in that rematch. The first fight, that head kick, man, it was so sick. One of the craziest things of all time. But, it was Usman all day in that fight with takedowns and wrestling until then. I'm on Kobe. I think he pushes the pace. He does what he does. And when he wins, the dude puts up some monsters. When Leon wins, I could see it, like you said, for the Pantoja, just in that round 3. I could see Leon knocking out Kobe in round 3 after being controlled and wrestled for 2 rounds and not be on the optimal. So looking at ownership, before I throw it to you, we have Leon at 36, Kobe at 48. I do agree with that. Even though he's the dog and 200 less, I do think he's going to be higher on, which I don't like that. But I don't know. Usually I'm like the Beck of Durden. I'm always game theory, taking advantage of the field. But I've been on Kobe for like a year now, so I can't go back. I'll have more Kobe and new. Yeah, I mean, I'm on Kobe. You know what? People are asking like his outfit, the things he's saying, all that. We're not getting into that. We care about making money and what happens in the octagon. What are you doing in this one?
Yeah, it's going to be Kobe or pass for me. I do think it could be a very close fight. Maybe Edwards does just piece him up on the feet. But he's going to need a knockout for a real ceiling here, unless Kobe just does want to strike with him for a while. I think Kobe could even win a striking match here. Just give me the pace that Kobe fought Usman at. I think he could beat Edwards just on pace alone on the feet. But Edwards is the better and more dangerous striker for sure. It's just that Edwards has won 5 UFC fights that went to the 5th round, and he averages 84 DraftKings points in those fights. Kobe has won 4 UFC fights that went to the 5th round, and he averages 151 DraftKings points in those fights. Like, Kobe has the highest ceiling on the slate by far. So I'm going to be super heavy on Kobe. I'm not going to screw you guys over by going 150, so I'll probably get like 80% Kobe here, and then I'm going to fade the other 20% in case second round, a 3rd round Edwards knockout does come. It just probably doesn't score enough, and especially at the ownership that he's going to get. I just have no interest in matching the field. I'm going to fade him instead of being underweight, and I'll get my exposure elsewhere. Fading him, though, should condense my player pool to where I want it to be more so. But yeah, that's how I'm going to be attacking this one. Colby will be my highest owned fighter on the card, and he could actually lose this fight and outscore Leon Edwards.
So, because this is a lot of people. Everyone hates Kobe, but they know he's good. But everyone, I mean, especially if you watch the press conference and stuff yesterday, some people that bothers them. It's the fight games, how she goes. But do you think why I'm saying all this is that people are going to let their heart and everything get into it? Like, I want Leon to win. Like, he's like all of this, and the ownership's closer than we maybe think, just because. I mean, he's a favorite anyway. It's only a $200 difference. Like, I don't know, 12% more for Kobe feels a little crazy, but I think it's right. Like, he's the way better DK play. Do you think people's emotions will get this line a little closer?
No, I don't think the people who are going to let the emotions affect it are really dictating ownership that much, to be honest with you. But yeah, the way I want it to go down is I hope Kobe goes out there and wins, and then backstage gets his ass jumped or something like that. It's fine with me, but go out there, get your hand raised, and win me some money first, and then I don't care what the hell happens to Covington after that.
Yeah, we don't care about anything. All we want is money. Pick who we think's gonna win. We try and make the most we can. Outside of that, you can have your opinions on anybody. Everyone's entitled to those. But Kobe and New is the pick for us both. Absolutely love them in DFS. 12-fight pay-per-view card, T-Mobile Arena, NFL Saturday as well. There's NBA, NFL, of course, this weekend too, Sunday. So much money to be made. I couldn't be more excited. Again, we appreciate everyone hanging out all year. We get a month off. January 13th, I believe, we'll be back. You'll see the same 2 faces all of next year in 2024 as well. But any final words, Big Marley?
Now, let's go out with a bang. Hopefully, it's a great card. Good luck to you. Good luck to everybody listening. It's been a fun year, but more to come next year. I expect just every year is going to get better and better over there at SHIPIT Nation.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of highs, of course, a lot of lows as well throughout the year. That won't change. That's the industry we're in. Again, we'll be back January 12th talking some fights. Everybody out there, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Be safe, make some money. Good luck, everybody. For Big Marley, I'm Titletown. Have a good one. Be safe.